Meeting. It's Tuesday, September 1st, 2020. It's a virtual meeting pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, Section 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Sturbridge Conservation Committee will be conducted via remote participation in the greatest extent possible. Specific information and guidelines for remote participation can be found on the town's website. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to listen and or watch the meeting may do so either via via the town's online on-demand video broadcast, on cable television on channel 191, or dial into the meeting at 774-304-1455, enter 1428# for the meeting number and 12345 for the access code. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the town's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or comprehensive record of the proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. I am going to read the opening statement for each public hearing so we have that in the record. In the interest of saving time, the Sturbridge Conservation Commission will hold all public hearings tonight for work within a wetland, water body, or resource area and or within the 200-foot buffer zone to a wetland, water body, or resource area in accordance with Mass Wetland Protection Act, MGL 131, Section 40, and associated regulations, and the Town of Sturbridge Wetland Bylaw and associated regulations. We will not be reading the newspaper ad. Prior to the opening of the first hearing for each project, the applicant is to submit proof of notification to abutters within 200 feet of the subject property line and proof of legal newspaper advertisement. If these items are not submitted, the public hearing will not open. Additionally, prior to the start of each public hearing, we will announce the location of the project, the applicant, and the applicant's representative. That said, we are at 6 o'clock, and as far as the CPA is concerned, we have not had for committee updates, we have not had a CPA meeting since the last meeting. Trails, how are you doing, David?
Doing well, but we had our meeting last week, before our last meeting, and so I have nothing to report for 2 weeks because the next meeting is 2 weeks from now.
Okay. All right, that's Trails. There's nothing to report on open space other than there is a letter into the select persons on the 11 acres on Cedar Lake that is for sale. I don't know what the town's interest might be in that, but at least people should be aware of it. Anything for Lakes Advisory, Eric? Mike's not on, Eric.
Nothing to report. No meeting.
Okay, good. Yeah, all right. We can go now to the minutes, August 18th, 2020. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Mr. Second. Yep. And the second was?
Steve Halterman.
Steve Halterman, okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Stephen Chidester?
Stephen Chidester in favor.
Eric Gaspar?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Steve Halterman?
Steve Halterman in favor.
David Barnacle?
David Barnacle in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. All right. Walk-ins. Becky, do we have any walk-ins?
We do. We have a quick presentation. This is in regards to the failing retaining wall down at the Habsbrook Plaza. This is something that you're aware of. It's something that the commission have been made aware of in the past. I've been working with the property owner, and they've have an engineer on board and looking at some different options on how to address that wall. So they have a quick presentation to give. And I can either share the screen with the project team, or I can put up the presentation myself if they don't need to, zoom in or use their cursor or anything like that. So I'll give them that option if they want to present, or I can do that for them.
We're fine either way, Rebecca, whatever's easiest for you.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
Let me see.
Perfect. Well, yes, thank you, Rebecca, not just for the introduction, but for certainly all of the help and guidance you've been along the way. My name is Phil Kaufman. I'm with Kimley Horn and Associates. As Rebecca alluded to, I'm not the owner, but the owner's engineer. Also on the phone with us is Mark Kroger, who is from CIM Group, the company that owns it. So he is representing CIM Group as the owner. And then we also have, I saw Justin was on, we might have one other, but GSI, who is our proposed contractor, who we've also been working very closely with as we evaluate options, pricing, time, schedule, all of the fun stuff. So this is, as Rebecca mentioned, it's really five slides here. The first is more of an overview. Center at Habsbrook, I do believe that the commission is familiar with the location, the site, and specifically the wall and some of the issues with a few of the blocks having fallen over. We still do believe that there is not a structural concern of this wall, but the concern is the erosion and the sediment that, due to these blocks falling and moving and shifting, the impact to the wetlands that are immediately adjacent. So this is the overall site plan, the address, again, the property owner, CIM Group, Kimley Horn, and then we can kick to the next one here, Rebecca. Next slide shows a little bit of a zoom in. So the picture to the left shows approximately where the existing wall sits today. We actually had one of our environmental engineers, biologists from Kimley Horn, go out and perform a wetland delineation on site. We had an old survey from about 2016 that showed the approximate limits, and what it was showing was that at the pinch point, in the tightest spot, there was about 21 feet from the wetlands to the face. The problem is that survey was a few years old, and wetlands don't shrink. So we wanted to go out and understand if they had expanded or kind of where the limits of wetlands. So we had one of our biologists in the Northeast go out and actually flag. Those flags still exist there today. This was only done a couple weeks ago. And what we found is that, of course, the wetlands vary in shape and their relation to the wall, but in the absolute pinch point, which is towards the bottom, kind of the second to lowest dimension there, there's about 18 feet today from the edge of wetlands to the face of the wall. And of course, that is, again, the pinch point, right? So it certainly gets larger to 29, 32 feet. And so what we found is that our minimum wall under existing conditions is 18 feet, and our average wall distance to wetland is 23 and a half feet. Moving forward. So we wanted to go over some background first, and maybe this is slightly out of order because the next slide is really going to go over our proposed wall, the design, the construction, things like that, and the last two slides. But without giving it away, at the next slide, I'm going to turn it over to the GSI team to really do a more thorough explanation of the type of wall we're proposing. But what I wanted to show here is, and again, we'll explain this in just a minute, that the type of wall and what it's going to look like. But essentially, we're going to be building a new proposed wall 10 feet in front of the existing wall. And so, of course, where we had 18 feet from the wall to the wetlands in existing conditions, right, simple math, subtract 10 feet. Our new minimum is going to be 8 feet, and then that average as opposed to 23 or whatever it was going to be 13. But the other thing we really want to point out, and really the message we want to send with this one, is that as we do the construction and the installation of this new wall, we have some really nice photos in the last slide that show that all of the construction equipment and vehicles are going to be on the I guess east or planned right side of the wall. So as they're building up walls, the construction equipment is going to be going up and kind of be in that space in between the two walls. And why that's really important is because the actual room that we need for constructability and for our equipment between the wall and the wetland is actually very, very minimal. It's only a 5-foot buffer that we're going to need in front of the wall, meaning that if the commission is okay with our design and if the commission is open to the wall that we're proposing here, we feel very, very comfortably that we will not actually impact the wetlands physically during construction, and that we would actually have, again, a minimum space of 3 feet beyond construction, but really more closer to 8.5, 9, and more feet in the vast majority, the average, right, being 8.5 feet. So what we're trying to show here again is we've got the existing wall 10 feet in front of it. We'll need about 5 feet of that additional 8 for construction, temporary during construction only. We would still have 3 or more feet beyond that. And then, of course, once construction's done, there would still be a solid 8 feet at a minimum, and more of an average of 13 feet between the new wall and the wetlands. So I'm going to turn it over as we move to the next slide here. Justin and the GSI team is going to describe a little bit more of the actual wall we're proposing, the design concept. And then the last slide after this slide shows a couple photos to help everybody kind of conceptualize and visualize what it is we're asking. Justin, let's see here. Justin, it doesn't look like you're on mute, but oh, now you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
Sounds good.
Great. So, not sure what I did different, but anyway, I'm glad you can hear.
Will now be recorded.
So, you hear me okay now?
You there, Justin? Oh, we have two Justins. One of the now we got
Classic virtual meeting problems, I guess. Sorry, we called in on two devices.
Well, that's not classic because usually it's me. So, this is unique.
Sorry about that. Yeah, just wanted to make the presentation take longer. So anyway, sorry. So this is Justin with GSI. I wanted to just go through the design concept. In general, the type of wall we construct is a geosynthetically confined soil wall. You see a lot of these used around the world for, we use them for rockfall barriers, bridge abutments, of course, retaining walls. And you can see the general sketch here that's showing the shape. We'd basically be building a 10-foot wide wall, full height of the existing wall, and a full length to basically buttress the existing wall, and creating a new dry stack block facing on the exterior of that wall. So you can see that it's kind of shown in our design sketch down in the bottom right-hand corner of the drawing. In cross-section, you see the stacked blocks and then the layers of fabric that go and extend back to the existing wall that's illustrated there with the sloping backfill. And then above that, you see the plan view of the footprint that matched up with Phil's drawing. You can hit the next slide and we'll show you kind of how the construction process would look. So it's pretty simple. We can do it in lots of different weather conditions. It involves a basic 3-step process. You lay a layer of geotextile down, put a block near the edge, and then backfill with stone, and then compact with either a roller or plate compactor or some other equipment, and do that in 8-inch lifts as you come all the way up to the full height of construction. So we were able to do these in pretty confined spaces, and I think the design would lend itself to being able to work in a very tight footprint, and I think we're limiting ourselves to about 15 feet to give ourselves a little safety factor against the edge of wetlands that Kimley Horn mapped. So,
does it step back as it comes up, Justin?
Only slightly. We can almost build these straight vertical. We can step them back slightly, but it's very slight.
Okay.
So we wanted to certainly take questions, but just to provide just a tiny bit more of context. So the goal here is to make sure before we jump in and spend a lot of time, more than anything, but time and effort putting together actual design and permit drawings to formally submit to the commission and to the city. We really wanted to gauge thoughts, answer questions, make sure that we collectively as a group today are at least some element of comfort that we're okay with what we're proposing here, the distance to the wetlands. We understand, of course, we're not in ideal situations. We are much closer to the wetlands than we would have liked, but as everybody, of course, can appreciate, this isn't a blank slate. We're not designing from scratch here. This is an existing condition. We're trying to do everything we can to relieve our concerns of additional sediment and erosion impacting the wetlands moving forward. So we feel really good about this. To echo kind of Justin's point, we think we can do this in a very confined space outside of the wetlands, not impact them during construction itself. So really it's just what questions or what can we do to make y'all feel better so that we feel good about starting our design and getting going so that we can more formally submit to the commission.
All right, let's start. Stephen, any comments or questions?
Yeah, so I'm concerned that this doesn't really address the source of the existing wall being heaved out of place and those huge, blocks being moved by whatever mechanism. I think, I'm not sure exactly what caused it. I don't know if it was backfilled with boulders and those are shifting due to, frost heave or, what's going on. But you're basically building a new wall in front of the old one, and what's going to happen when whatever mechanism is causing the old wall to shift, that's still occurring.
Bill, can you answer that?
I can try to take a stab, and then Mark or Justin. So I do need to apologize in the sense that I'm not a structural engineer. We had one of our structural engineers from Kimley Horn go out, admittedly, in 2017, so several years ago. But what we found is that it's not necessarily we don't have any concern of the structural durability of the wall itself. We don't think that, for example, the wall is unable to hold the soil behind it or anything. We truly feel that it was the friction, the smoothness on how old this wall has become and is now, that really it was just kind of some horizontal force, I always confuse my shear forces and this and that, but that it was just movement of the blocks. And so the intent here is that we're going to build a wall that it's not a block wall, it's not going to have those blocks move, and that the wall, the soil in between the new and the old is going to hold all of those blocks into place. But from a structural standpoint, there was never any, nor does there continue to be any concern that the soil behind the wall is pushing it over, and there's never any concern that, we have a structural concern of this wall falling apart, the existing wall. So I probably didn't do a great job. I don't know, Jeff, if there's anything you can add or supplement there. But we feel good about the fact that adding the soil in between the new wall and the existing will hold those blocks in place. And there's not a concern of ours that the water or the soil behind it or anything is really pushing or putting this at any structural durability issues.
Yeah, I would add that the GCS, we use it oftentimes, as I said, for even rockfall barriers. We'll build them approximately this shape and place them at the base of a mountain, and you'll see giant boulder impact strikes. It'll hit them, and one of the reasons that they work is that they're internally stable. once you've built them, they're a composite structure. You know, there's been a lot of testing at Colorado, University of Colorado, and other DOTs have done a lot of research on this stuff, but basically works like a composite structure, and mostly your concern from a design standpoint would be global stability, and not some kind of internal punch out from like an individual boulder or perched water or something like that. It would have to be a full overturning, bearing, or sliding failure mode.
What would the visual look like if there were a punch out? How do we know by looking at it? Not me, but you, as engineers, how do you know by looking at it that Stephen's concern isn't valid?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we provided and Mark, I think at one point, but I mean, again, honestly, this was years ago, not months ago, years ago. We'd be happy to share our report that we prepared at Kimley-Horn. One of our senior structural experts went out, and we kind of explained exactly what we saw, what we observed, what our concerns, what we thought the probable cause of the blocks falling over. At a minimum, I would be happy to share that if Rebecca still doesn't have it, because why would she? It's a couple of years at this point. We can resend that to Rebecca, and maybe she can circulate it to this group. All I can say is when we went out and we did a visual observation, we took a look, we walked up and down, one of our more senior structural folks, and there was never a question of the structural durability, and we still feel good about the types of what we saw in front of that. So I think that will address a little more, and I can, on the side here, send that to Rebecca.
Okay. Eric?
Phil, this is Mark Krager with CIM.
Oh, go ahead.
We've also had geotechnical engineers out here looking at this as well. So besides the structural engineer from Kimley-Horn and the civil side, we've also had geotechnical engineers looking at this, looking at the soil conditions and everything else. And from their findings and borings that were done and looking at the material, and then again, the details on how this was originally built, as Phil said, yeah, there wasn't any signs of concerns of heave-all or major failure or anything like that of the wall.
Yeah, that's
where do they do the borings? From the top down, behind the wall, below the wall?
That's right. So they did a couple borings on the top of the wall, and then we also we got topo survey to show exactly elevation change and slopes, so that the PSI, Professional Service Industries, was our geotechnical engineer that we engaged, so that they could run some soil stabilization ideas. And I'll take a look at what we have. I don't know if I just have a bunch of emails and more thoughts, or if I have a formal report. But if I have a report, I'll certainly share that with the commission as well.
Are there any holes in the surface anywhere around the walls that would show washout?
Not that I'm aware. I mean, we certainly didn't observe or indicate anything in the visits that we've done.
Yeah, we have the one side on the north side that's got the bigger failure that you've all have probably seen some pictures of. But yeah. I think I was last on site at some point, kind of about this time or so last year, and I've physically been out there a few times since, and haven't seen any signs of washout or holes or anything through the rest of the existing wall that's there.
Okay. Steve Haldeman, you got anything?
Yeah, I guess I'm confused. First you said you did not have any idea why that wall failed, and then you said your senior structural engineer was out there, and he had a report or an email or something that he said why it failed. Did I misunderstand you, and you were going to send that to Becky?
Yeah, so I will send that, and I apologize if I misconstrued anything. I guess I would be cautious in using the word failure. What we believe is that the rocks have essentially lost some drift and have displaced a little bit, and that has caused one or two of the blocks at the top to fall over. We never thought that there was any structural failure. So we went out and we did an observation and an assessment of the wall. And in our opinion, there was never any structural, and there continues to not be any structural concerns. The concerns are, those blocks aesthetically. When we first did this project, our assessment in 2017, what we told Mark as the owner is, Mark, you have no structural concerns here. Our recommendation is to get a company to go out, a construction company, pick up the block and put it back on top. That was our recommendation. It was through working with Rebecca and the understanding that, hey, the commission and the city, even though there's no structural, our concern is more sediment and erosion control related. And so that's where we said, okay, what's a more permanent fix to prevent future blocks from falling and to prevent sediment from going through? And that's what's kind of led us to today. Does that help clarify at all?
Yeah, thank you. That's all I have, Ed.
Eric, did you?
No, I didn't say anything, but I was just curious. We're only seeing one plan, and obviously we're encroaching closer to the wetland. Were there any alternatives that you guys worked up that you could also show us? And I'd be interested to hear the strengths and weaknesses of other alternative proposals versus this one, because at the end of the day, you're asking us to just kind of here's one plan. Do you think this works? But I have to imagine there's probably multiple different ways to skin this cat.
Yeah, I think that's a fair question. And as Rebecca knows, because we've already been on some calls with her in preparation for this call, we have been working closely, a lot of parties, right? CIM, Timley Horn, PSI, like I mentioned, GSI, and then working with Rebecca as well. We initially had two proposals that we shared with Rebecca. And this is the second option is basically creates a series of walls, very high level, right? At the most fundamental level, it essentially creates a series of walls where we're reducing the height of this top wall, we're grading back the actual slope, right? We're excavating material, we're sloping back, and we're doing a second wall up closer towards the actual building. Honestly, I think to prevent the blocks from falling over, this addresses that concern more. Being 100% honest and just, totally transparent, this is not a little, but a much more cost-effective option, right? At a magnitude of 2 to 1. I mean, this is, and we're not talking small dollars. This is an investment of CIM Group of over $500,000. The option that we're presenting to you today. Doing the other option, the quote we got from GSI was, $990. I mean, it was just shy of. So, I mean, it really is a significant difference in cost. Is there a second option? Yes. Have we discussed it? Have we vetted it? We also feel good about it, but I think we feel just as good, quite honestly, better about the option we're presenting to you today. And then there's the obvious other perks of it being more cost-effective, quicker for us to do during construction. It's easier. There's a lot of other constructability things which, that equates to why it's so much cheaper. It's quicker. There's less risk on site, et cetera, et cetera. But this is the one that we really feel solves the problem the most as well.
Okay, David, did you speak on this?
Not yet.
Go for it.
Philip, my question is having to do with the first comment that you made when you first came on. You indicated that correctly, that wetlands don't shrink and enlarge. And now we're going to be at the point where over the last 5 years, it has grown by a significant amount, and now you are taking away some of that amount. My question really is, what happens if the water from that wetland starts lapping up against the base, really your construction on top of geotechnic fabric? Does that start washing away and weaken the overall structure of this secondary wall that you're putting in?
Yeah, good question. Justin, can I turn that one over to you?
Yeah, that's a great question. One one thing I failed to mention earlier, that we also are geotechnical engineers, myself and Dave Brogan with GSO on the call. And we did check the global stability of the existing wall, and then the proposed construction, and just basically looking at the sensitivity analysis of that improvement. And then we also did some stress testing on scenarios such as one you just mentioned, with a shallow groundwater table right at the base of the wall. So we ran that as well. We've also built these walls in significant rapid drawdown scenarios, retaining walls for detention basins where there's repeated fluctuations in the water. We've built them as bridge abutments on the edge of creeks all over the world. And so they do have a variable bearing capacity, and as a composite structure, they're pretty durable to settlement. I would also say there's going to be some over excavation before we start building the wall, and then we'll come out of the ground with this solution, so you won't have it sitting right at the existing grade.
Thank you very much.
Okay, this is Ed Goodwin. Couple of questions. Now, this isn't going to expand into additional parking space. Yes or no?
It's not. If Rebecca wants to go up a couple, everything we're talking about is we've got the parking area. Yeah, so this one right here. So where we're showing the existing wall, those kind of 2 or 3 lines further to the right, and you see all those circles with the D and the S. So those are utilities. The 2 lines to the left of those D and S, that's our current curb line. Then there's a guardrail. That's the line with the little circles. Everything we're talking about is well beyond any of the parking or structures or existing developed area.
The footing will be, 6 feet in the ground? 4 feet? How deep will the footing be dug for this?
How deep do you guys go, Justin?
I want to say it was 4 feet. We'll set that, so it won't be impacted by a frost heave, but that would be, I don't remember exactly, but I believe it was something along those lines.
Okay, how wide would that be, Justin?
I think it was a 10-foot wide. It's the full width of the wall.
10 foot wide? Okay. All right, when will you guys be coming back with a final plan?
So because we did have a couple options, I say a couple, I mean truly a couple, we had the 2 options for Rebecca. It was actually at her recommendation and suggestion that we kind of go and vet them on our side and really figure out which one we think would be best suited to do, to design and install here. So this is that. If we get, understanding that you guys can't approve or won't until you see, the full design and really have more time to dive in. If we at least get some warm and fuzzies from this call, our intent is to start moving to the next step, which is the actual construction drawings, the CDs, the design phase. Our hope is to actually start construction, in the winter, but later this year, with the intent of actually finishing very early, hopefully 2021. So we want this thing to be, by the spring, we want this to be designed, approved, built, construction, totally done. So that's kind of the schedule we're looking at.
Great. Anything else, gentlemen, before we close this up? This is just a walk-in. So.
Ed, I have a quick question.
Go.
This is Becky. So when we discussed the 2 options previously, I remember there was mention about both options had the same lifespan for the walls. What was the lifespan projected for the wall? And then what would be your remedy to fix the wall after that? I guess I asked that question because with this option, you really have nowhere closer to get with the wetlands. And the other option, you were working in the upland area behind the wall. So how would you replace this wall when this one fails at that lifespan?
Yeah, really good questions. Justin, again, if you want to take maybe the first stab.
Yeah, that's an awesome question, and I'm trying to think of how best to answer it without it sounding like I'm trying to be. So the technology that we're using was copied from the original some of the Great Wall of China construction. They used reeds and mud and stacked that in, and it's been in place for thousands of years. The technology, we don't really expect this thing to deteriorate. At least in our lifetime, we generally state for the purposes of DOT designs, that it's 75 to 100-year lifespan is what we'd be looking at. But there are still standing structures in the Middle East that were built with this technology over 1,000 years ago and in parts of Asia. So it's a very old concept. I would feel confident saying at least 100 years.
Okay. I have another question too. Now, on top of the existing retaining wall to the parking lot, there's a lot of pine tree growth and other vegetation up there. Is that something that would need to be removed in order to protect the wall? And then also, with the work area that you have you looked at, obviously we've got a lot of mature trees down there that will need to come out. Will there be any retention of mature trees down there? And then also, I guess my suggestion would be, if this is the concept that moves forward with, is some type of good restoration plan down there. Obviously, if you're digging, there's tree roots of other trees that maybe aren't in your limit of work that might get disturbed because we are really encroaching on that wetland. So think about replacement planting, and then also just if you can answer the question about trees on top of the wall and vegetation.
Yeah, I guess, Justin, if you want to, you'll probably know better what we need to impact on top of the wall, and then I can comment on some of the other comments or questions that you just made. But Justin, you want to just take a stab at the upland on top of the existing wall? Do we really need to do anything with the landscaping there?
Not with this concept. With the other concept, there was some heavy clearing needed, but not really with this concept. We'd be doing everything from below.
Yeah, and what I would add is that I think that's an area where we want to be good neighbors. We want to be good, business owners here in Sturbridge. And so what I mean by that is I think we'd be open. And of course, it's easy. I'm spending Mark's money, so Mark, stop me if I'm wrong. But of course, I think we'd be willing to work. And if it means finding other ways to add some landscaping or to mitigate certain things or to, do some other restorative, things in place while we're there anyways. I mean, I think we have some flexibility to really work with the commission and say, okay, what are some things as long as we're here, as long as we're doing so much work and we're investing in this, what are some other things that we can help improve the situation?
Mr. Chair, point of
no,
order.
I think yes.
I just like to say I think we're kind of exceeding our walk-in limit.
Right. I was just going to say that.
And I'm not to give my blessing for them to move forward with this. I have more questions, and I think they should schedule a regular hearing or something on this.
Okay. Anybody else have a final comment before because we really do need to move this along.
Yeah, I agree with Steve.
Gentlemen. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
I was going to say, it just sounds like they're not finished with the final design concept, and I think there's a meeting of come to us with the final design, and let's do this again as a hearing, and I agree with Stephen that
Right, they have to.
we need to see them again.
Well, that they have to come to us with a plan. So and we'll go through it then. I think they're just trying to get some guidance.
Yeah, my point is I want to see the alternatives. They don't need to spend time doing all the final plans because I'm not necessarily satisfied with this. I mean, that's just my opinion, but.
Okay. This is Mark, and again, I appreciate all your time. I don't want to take up more. I know you guys have a big agenda here. What we can do is I'll work with Rebecca, see what your schedules are, when the next time is, what it can do. I'll get with Kimley Horn, our contractors. We'll put together some supplemental information plans, and we can schedule a a bigger meeting for the group to discuss and present and answer any further questions that you guys have.
Yeah, and if you have questions on detail, Becky can schedule it so you have more time. We just have all you have to do is come back and come with proposals on that you could be looking at, and we can discuss. It's just this is supposed to be a 5-minute walk-in section. Is a 5-minute for whoever comes in.
Okay.
It's been a half an hour. All right.
Okay. Yep. No, I appreciate it. Yep, and I'll work with Becky and we'll get that scheduled.
Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for bringing it in, and we look forward to working further with you.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we are now, Becky, at 6:15, 152 Lake Road. Request for determination of applicability. C. Callahan, owner. Jay Dubois is the DC Engineering and Survey, Inc. Representative, and paver patio, fire pit, and sitting walls. All right. Becky, you want to start off?
Yep, I will. Let me just share my screen.
Yep.
See, so this is a small landscaping project. I'm just going to zoom in so it's easier for you to see here. We performed a site visit last week. All of the work is with an existing previously developed yard area. The proposed project includes a paver patio and walkway. All of the work is located outside of the 50-foot buffer zone. There's no tree removal proposed or required as part of the project. And they do propose erosion controls while doing the work. Therefore, I don't have any concerns with the project. I would recommend approval of the project through the determination process. And for this, I would recommend a positive 2B, as we're not doing any resource area approval. A positive number 5, being that it's subject to our local bylaw with conditions, and a negative number 3. It is work within the buffer zone, but will not alter the resource area, and an NOI would not be required for the work. So with that, I would just recommend what our typical pre-construction conditions are, being, erosion control check, meeting with the contractor prior to start of work, and then obviously having the erosion controls in place for the duration of work.
All right. David Barnacle?
Jason, how much excavation is going to be needed in order to put in these pavers?
Basically, they're just going to take out, kind of scrub out what's there now. I believe there's some gravel areas. I'm not exactly sure if there's any pavers currently, but they're basically just going to take out, maybe 6 inches and then replace it with good, compaction gravel. And then they'll just put the pavers down on the, the appropriate either sand or stone dust.
And so that material will be moved off-site?
Yes. Yeah, any excess material will be just taken away.
All right.
It won't,
Mr. Haldeman?
There won't be any.
Yeah, I thought that there was that he'd have to put a little fill in if he went as far towards the lake as he was talking about on the site visit. And
yes,
there's a little bit of scrubbing out, because I pressed him on that, and there was a little bit of a very slight removal of material, but there was a little bit of a drop that he was going to have to bring up. So I would say, based on the site visit, it seemed to me that any excess material was going to end up packed down just slightly down a few feet away from where it's perfectly level.
Eric?
It all made sense.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good project. I don't have any problems with it.
All righty. Anybody else? Stephen?
No comment.
And I had no problems with it. It's a simple project. I do think that some of the organic is going to have to be removed. There won't be much because that's very sandy soil there. And there will be probably some need for fill because when you go out on an angle, you do bring in a lot. It takes a lot more fill to compensate for it than you think when you're looking at it. So, but I think it's a good project. I have no problem with it.
We're going to ask if there's any public
Right.
comment if you're ready.
All right, any further comment from the board? We'll go to the public. Jeff, could you see if there's anybody on the line for 152 Lake Road?
Is there any public on the line for the public hearing for 152 Lake Road? Any public comment for 152 Lake Road? No public.
No public. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing. This is David Barnacle.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that. This is Steve Halterman.
Discussion? All in favor?
David
Stephen
Barnacle.
Chidester? Okay. Stephen Chidester?
Stephen Chester in favor.
Eric Gaspar?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Steve Halterman?
Steve Halterman in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor. All right, now, we have a
Mr.
motion.
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the request for determination of applicability for 152 Lake Road, and as indicated by the agent, that it be a +5 - 3.
And that's David Barnacle, and do I have a second?
Eric Gaspar second.
Eric Gaspar, second. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion.
Yeah, you need to. Mr. Chairman, you need to add a positive 2B to that motion.
Amended.
Positive 5, number 5, and you need, you have positive, it says you have a positive 2B.
Right. But it wasn't part of the
Becky
motion.
didn't mention it?
Sorry.
It wasn't, okay. I didn't hear it. All right. All in favor?
Barnacle in
Stephen
favor.
Chidester? David in favor? Stephen?
Stephen Chester in favor.
Eric Gaspar?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Steve Haldeman?
Steve Halterman in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now
Have a
at
good night.
6, yep. We're now at 6:30. We are at 9 Holland Road, abbreviated notice of resource area delineation, DEP file number 300-1068, continued from August 18th, 2020. R. B. Bonaventura, owner, applicant. G. Kravosky, EBT Environmental Consulting, Inc., representative. Approval of wetland resource areas. All right. Becky, do you want to start off? Or do you want Glenn to?
No, I can start off. So this is a continuation from the last public hearing, discussed moving forward with requesting proposals for peer reviews. So since the last meeting, I did put out 3 RFPs for peer reviews. Those were sent to Ty and Bond, GZA Associates, and Art Allen at Ecotech. I received 2 back. Ty and Bond at the time declined to submit. So we have one from Ecotech and GZA. For both of those, both organizations have done this work previously for the commission, so I'm confident in both of them that they could do this work. One thing to note that Ecotech did say that they would be able to have the work and the report done in 3 weeks. GZA, unfortunately, wouldn't be able to come back to October 20th.
It's my understanding that Ecotech was a little less expensive also?
Yes, correct.
Yes, no?
Correct.
All right. Glenn, any?
Yeah, thank you very much for asking. We'd like to move forward as soon as possible. We understand that there's governor might someday lift his
I hate to say this to you, but you bounced again.
yesterday talking to Webster all night long, and I kept asking, "Can you hear me?" And they said, "Yeah, no problem." So I don't know what it is. But, can you hear me now?
It's a different direction.
It must be. South instead of west. I get it. So thank you. We appreciate it. We would like to move forward as soon as you can and to get this review of the MHW and BBW completed. We do have a draft also on the second matter. What was left in the enforcement order, what was left in the order of conditions, and we are concerned at some point to close this up before the governor, if this ever happens, lifts the 2020 Act.
Yeah, that's the next public hearing, so we'll just keep it separate.
All right. All right, so I guess we need to vote on who we're going to hire.
Correct.
The cheapest and the quickest, said David Barnacle.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Art said that he'd be the quickest and he was the most reasonably priced, and I think both are good applicants.
Then I make a motion that we approve as the environmental monitor, Ecotech.
Do I have a second?
Stephen should have second.
Any discussion?
Steve Alderman, I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor? David Barnacle?
David Barnacle in favor.
Stephen Chidester?
Stephen Chittister in favor.
Eric Gaspar?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Steve Haldeman?
Steve Halterman in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. So now we'll ask for a continuation.
Thank you. I ask for a continuation.
All right, all in favor of continuation? Eric?
David Barnacle in favor.
David
Eric
Barnacle in
Gaspar in
favor.
favor.
Eric? Yep. Steve Haldeman?
Steve Halderman in favor.
Ed, we
And Stephen
should ask for public comment before we move on.
Good comment. Jeff, or Holly, could you check to see if there's anybody in the audience?
Yes, is there any public on the line for
Thanks,
comments for 9 Holland Road? Abbreviated notice of resource area delineation hearing? 9 Holland Road, 6:30 hearing? No comments.
No comment. Okay, going back to it, I will start over again. Mr. Barnacle?
In favor. David Barnacle.
In favor of continuation? Steve Haldeman?
Steve Halderman in favor.
Stephen Chidester?
Stephen Chittister in favor.
Eric Gaspar?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. All right, thanks, Glenn. We are now on to 9 Holland Road.
Not yet.
What?
Thank you, Rebecca.
Do you want to read it,
Yep.
Ed?
I beg your pardon?
Do you want to open the public hearing?
Yeah, I'll read it. Yep. I am going to read it, yeah. Yep. I was going to say something about Groundhog Day. 645, 9 Holland Road, request to amend DEP file number 300-0959, continued from August 18th, 2020. R.D. Bonaventura, owner, applicant. G. Kravosky, EBT Environmental and Consulting, Inc., representative, and amend order of conditions for DEP file number 300-0959 to remove special condition 38 and to amend special condition 77 to remove the number 38. All right? Becky?
Yep, so just as a reminder, at the last meeting, we did discuss this, and we did discuss getting an update on the compliance with the orders of conditions in the enforcement order to be submitted. There was some discussion about a site visit, but what was discussed was to look at that with recommendations from the consultant for restoration prior to doing the site visit. So as far as the permit, I mentioned this last time, and the permit is expired. From review of the information under the government's order. I mean, there are extensions for permits, but if it has an enforcement order or some other type of action taken against it, there does not qualify for an extension. So it wouldn't appear to me that you would be in a position to amend it because it's expired. However, I mean, we are doing the ANRAD process. Some of the concerns that they have is that the original orders of conditions did restrict future work within the site because there is riverfront there. So what my recommendation would be at this time, since the permit is expired, is we wait, go through the ANRAD process, see if there is the historic mill exemption that does exist in the property. We'll get that defined, and then as part of the process of closing out the original order, once the enforcement order is satisfied as well and all the conditions, then at that time, with the issuance of the certificate, it can be noted on there, because the condition that is of concern does say that unless activities are exempt pursuant to the riverfront regulations. So if historic mill complex is exempt, then I think that that clarifies that. But something could be added into the certificate to clarify that further for anybody as well. So I think that for now, I think it's important to go through the ANRAD process for them, but then not to forget too, that let's get this enforcement order closed out and make sure that they've done everything to satisfy you. There's still some discussion, which was last time, about planting. A lot of the stormwater, I think, was satisfied through there, but let's go through, make sure the permit, go through the conditions one by one if it's needed to be done, with an update of where that stands in the enforcement order. And that way we can be working on that as the ANRAD goes through its process and get that resolved for them too. That would be my recommendation.
So you're saying we should close this out, or it has been closed out?
Doing.
Well, I don't think, so for this, the permit's expired, so you can't amend it. I think because they put a request in, the recommendation, I guess, would be to deny the amendment request, because you're not in a position to give one. And then they still have to do a request for certificate of compliance to close out the permit. And it can be resolved through that process.
Okay.
After the ANRAD's done.
All right. Glenn, would you like to speak on it?
Thank you. We have an attorney working on this. We're not agreeing that this order can't be amended, but at the same time, we do appreciate that there might be a condition in the certificate that it helps to explain that more thoroughly that the condition that we asked who is not going to encumber the property in the future. That was the main case, is that we don't want to be encumbered, and if the exception or exemption stated by Rebecca in the order was due on 5/22 of 20, technically it did expire. If this exception does clarify it that once historical mill complex is satisfied, site is that on the site, then we would still be able to use the site and not be restricted by square footage that was mentioned again in the condition that we asked to met. That all being said, I'm satisfied. I wouldn't want to close anything out. We get our attorney finalize his statement, period. And on the other matter about the enforcement order and the order conditions, we do have a draft outlining what we have completed on both of those, and we should wrap that up in the next few days and get it to the Conservation Commission as requested at the last meeting.
Okay. Any comments, Eric?
There was one last thing. I'm sorry. If there is a site inspection to be made relative to the Norway maples, and in that one of the final details, I'm not going to clarify that it is the only detail left, but the planting of the saplings, I believe a site inspection with the board might get us to that next step to clean that last piece of that piece up, so that we can work towards saplings for maples on the McConnell property. I'd like to have that discussion at the site.
All right. Eric, any comment?
So, can I take from what you were saying, Glenn, that you have a attorney working on this, that you would ultimately like to continue this?
were both advertised at the same time. I would like to continue the discussion as we don't agree that the order couldn't still be amended. But we also appreciate the commission and the commission's agent that there would be a condition eventually in the certificate that clarified did withdraw the us to amend the order, that we would still be left with the same property in the end, that the property that we could use. That was the whole case. We just don't want to be hamstrung by once believing through the Burton engineering plan that this case was all riverfront. We've already had DEP chime in and looking at 1890 maps and leaving, and I think we had an earlier discussion that a portion of this, not most of the site, is historical.
Right. So just so we're clear, Glenn, how long would you expect that process to take to have?
Thank you again, Mr. Sir. The next meeting. The next time we're in front of you, if Mr. Art Allen, that's the person I think you just hired, whatever, if it's one meeting from now or 2 meetings from now that we're back together with you, I think we would close that out. I'm not trying, there's no...
It would be 3 weeks is what we talked about with Art Allen, so it would be two meetings. It would not be the next meeting, it would be the meeting after. So you're asking for a continuation for, what would the date be, Beck?
Thank you.
October 6th.
Yeah.
October 6th.
6th. Thank you so much for that.
All right.
So
I'm going to use my Stephen Chidesta rule and check with the audience to see if there's anybody out there that would like to speak on this. Holly?
Yep. Hi, is there any public on the line for 9 Holland Road, the request to amend DEP file number 300-959, 9 Holland Road, public? Comments? No comments.
No comments.
The comments. Do I have approval to continue this to October? What was it? I'm sorry, I didn't write the number. 6?
October 6th.
4? 6? Yeah. Eric?
Yeah, Eric.
Motion to approve continuation. Yeah. All right. Stephen? Chidesta?
Stephen Chittister, I approve.
Steve Haldeman?
No, I'm not thrilled. I think the regs and the law is pretty clear. You're not going to amend this permit. That's fine that the lawyer wants to earn a buck and dance around, and then at the end say we can't amend it. But yeah, I guess I'm okay with it. I'm not happy about it, but sure.
David?
Yeah, reluctantly, David Barnacle in favor.
And Ed Goodwin also reluctantly in favor. So we have a continuation to October 6th
And that
for
will,
9 Holland Road. And what?
that's all right, that'll be at 6:30 on October 6th. Now, I just want to ask a question, Ed. For the previous public hearing for 9 Holland Road, we probably won't have the peer review report back. Did we want to continue that to October 6th as well?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Right, Glenn? There's no sense in having it if we don't
yes,
have
sir.
peer review.
Thank you again.
All right, then I'm just going to clarify here. So what I'm going to do is on October 6th at 6:30, we'll do the abbreviated notice of resource area delineation public hearing first. So that way we can clarify for the ANRAD, which clarifies for his amendment request. The amendment request will be at 6:45 on October 6th.
Right. Great. Thanks, Glenn.
Thank you very much for your time.
We are now at 7 o'clock, 136, 138, 140, 148, Lake Road, notice of intent, DEP file number 300-1067, continued from August 18th, 2020. T. Clark, Big Alum Lake Association applicant. Espico, Burton Engineering, Representative Roadway Drainage Improvements along Lake Road. All right, gentlemen. Becky, you want to start it off?
Sure, I'm just getting my screen ready. So since the last meeting, we did, at the last public hearing, there were some additional materials that DEP had commented that we needed. With that, there was drainage information showing for stormwater, some information about the correct addresses and a butter notification. So since the last public hearing, the project team, the engineers have worked to submit that information. It has been submitted to our office. We have reviewed it. I mean, I don't have any concerns with the project. This is a resource area improvement project for an existing road. They did go through and show compliance to the maximum extent practical for the redevelopment that was shown in the drainage report. I'm going to put the plan up on here and let the team go over. There was only minor modifications, but I just wanted to pull it up. I think it was just erosion controls. But I'll let the project team kind of go over some of the stormwater stuff for the commission. I did draft a permit with anticipation that you might potentially be approving the project for them. So that was provided in advance for your review and approval. So let me share my screen. Callisto, are you on there? Do you want to go over this now?
Sure, I'm here. Do you hear me?
Yep.
Very well, Callisto. How
Okay.
you doing?
Well, that's not it.
Good.
I'm fine. How are you?
Good.
Hi. So I discussed this last time. Not much has changed, except we did add some erosion control, and we did provide some drainage calculations. If you'd like, I can get over it again. Starting at the lower left corner, we're introducing a grass swale along the road that would discharge into a catch basin. Then we pipe it from there into another catch basin, which will pick up a additional part of the road, and then take the drainage across the street to a grass swale. And in that grass swale, we'll have a couple of check dams. There's another inlet further down the road, say in the middle of the page, with another catch basin to collect runoff and discharge to that grass swale. So those three catch basins will be removing suspended solids, as well as the grass swale with the check dams will be removing it. And then further to the right, there's an existing catch basin. We're going to regrade the road a little bit to make sure the drainage gets there, and it discharges to an existing depression, say a grass swale. It's really a gravel depression. That has silted up. We'll clean that up, put a check dam in it, and it'll be, well, obviously now it's working to remove sediment, and with the check dam, it'll remove more. So that's basically the plan.
All right. Questions, anyone? Starting with you, Eric. You're on the left-hand top.
I'm on the left-hand top? Nice.
Yeah.
No, I mean, no, I mean,
for a new guy, that's big.
I know. At least I'm not center square, right? I mean, obviously, it's a dramatic improvement. So I don't have any questions.
No questions. Steve Halterman.
I appreciate that you submitted all that extra additional information, and this looks really good, and I approve. I mean, I'm happy with it. I don't have any more questions.
DB, Mr. Barnacle.
I'm not concerned at all about the plan. I think the plan is quite good. Concerned about the maintenance. It's going to be incumbent on the volunteers, and that's going to be sometimes a hard road to hoe. But I am fully in favor of all of this because it is such a great improvement relative to Lake.
Right.
Stephen?
Yeah, I have the same
If
comment.
it's anything, they're initiating this project, so they're very concerned about
I'm asking for Stephen to speak. Stephen, go ahead.
I had the same comment about the maintenance. It sounds like they were going to address that. Also, Becky had indicated that they may need to remove some pine trees. And so, Becky, was there an opportunity to do a replanting of those?
Yes, at the very end. Yes, that can be addressed. There's a couple of pine trees at the end of that major grass swale. We're going to try to go around them, but I'm talking with Mr. Clark. Yeah, right in that area. Some of them may have to be removed, and if they have to be replanted, yes, we can replant.
Okay, thank you. That's all my comments.
Callisto, when would it start and when would it end? What are we looking at timetable?
Yeah, this is
They're ready to
Tom
start.
Oh, Peter, go ahead.
Okay, Tom, go ahead.
All right. Basically, the contractor's schedule is late September, early October. And we plan to do this when the lake has started to be dropped down and the traffic in the area is minimal. And also to address the tree removal, I have had the contractor look at it. They're going to try to do it without removing any of the pine trees. There was one tree that may get hit a little bit by hitting the root structure. But other than that, we're going to try to minimize any tree removal.
Okay, great. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to
Steve
speak,
Halterman.
Holly?
Eddie,
Oh,
Steve
I'm sorry, Steve. Oh, Steve, I missed you.
No,
You're
you
right next
didn't.
to Eric. What?
But I do have another comment based on this.
Oh, you have another comment? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, based on the root, this impact of the roots. I mean, we know very well that could kill the tree. So, a few years down the road, the tree's dead, and back addressing that. So, I'm just a little concerned about that. It might be better to remove the tree, and if they're going to damage the roots, remove the tree and plant another one. There are a lot of trees down there.
This is Tom Clark, and I agree. We're just, the contractor thought he had enough 4-foot boundary on one side of the one tree that's very close to the swale. So we're going to look at it as he gets into the digging. If it's a big root structure, we'll take the tree down and replant some trees.
That was my only other comment. I'm good.
Yep. Okay. Anybody else before I go to the audience? Holly, could you check to see if anybody wants to
Sure.
Road?
Is there any public on the line for the 7 o'clock public hearing for 136, 138, 140, 148 Lake Road, the notice of intent? No public.
Thank you. All right. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Chairman David
So moved. Steve Halterman.
Steve Alderman, okay. David, second?
Yes.
All right. Discussion? All in favor of closing the public hearing? Mr. Haldeman?
Steve Halterman in favor.
David Barnacle?
David Barnacle in favor.
Eric Gaspar?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Stephen Chidester?
Stephen Chittister in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. Do I have a motion? To
Make a
approve.
motion that we approve the notice of intent, DEP file number 300-1067, with appropriate relative order of conditions as indicated by the agent. And this is David Barnacle.
Do I have a second?
Eric Gaspar, second.
A second with Eric Gaspar. Any further discussion? Oh, you moved, huh? Did you change seats? Is there any discussion? Seeing none.
Eric.
All in favor? Eric? You're still first.
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Okay. Stephen Chidester?
Stephen Chittister in favor.
Steve Halterman.
Steve Halterman in favor.
David Barnacle.
David Barnacle in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Yeah, nicely done.
So Ed, just before you move on, sorry to interrupt, I did provide you with the draft permit with conditions. Were there any questions or concerns with that from the board?
I had none.
David Barnacle, I also had none.
Steve Halterman, I had none.
Stephen Chittister, no comments.
Eric
Gaspar,
Gaspar?
no comment.
Comment? All right.
Thank you.
You just wanted me to start the meeting a minute late, Becky. I had it right at... For 6 Picker Road, notice of intent, DEP file number 300-1062, continued from August 18th, 2020, New England Cold Storage LLC applicant, G. Kravosky, EBT, environmental consultants, is the representative for the construction of a wetland crossing and a commercial site infrastructure.
All right.
All right, Becky?
Yep. So just as a summary, this was continued from the last meeting. At the last meeting, some of the kind of outstanding things were there were some questions and slight modifications for the stormwater management system. So since the last meeting, those items have been addressed. We did receive revised materials, including revised plans, revised drainage information, including stormwater checklists, et cetera. Our peer reviewer for stormwater did review everything, provided a report that he had no concerns with the revisions. This was also given to our wetland peer reviewer, our Alan. He reviewed the materials as well and did not have any concerns. So at this time, I would recommend approval of the project. I did draft a permit and provide that to the board to review. You know, most of the conditions are typical conditions during construction. For this project, as it requires a stormwater pollution prevention plan, that was one of the prior to construction conditions that isn't always added in the permits. In addition, we're looking for an environmental monitor as indicated by the commission. I also had a few other prior to the start work conditions. One of the things I noted, it's a very minor thing, within the operation and maintenance plan, I added a condition that that's updated and submitted to include a site plan identifying all the stormwater management structures. We did talk about that before, and I went back through the filing, and it was in one of the previous stormwater reports in the O&M plan, but it just didn't make it to the next one. So just ask that that's included, so that way in the future they know where that all of the maintenance structures are. I think it just didn't get included in this last revision. And then one of the other minor details was just add a management note related to the restoration areas within the stormwater basins to make sure that the what maintenance activities are necessary there. We just want to make sure that they don't cut all those shrubs down in the future. So those are some of the pre-construction conditions. During construction, obviously with the environmental monitor, what is typical is there's progress reports that are submitted. And then just kind of going, we do have wetland replication in here. So there was a section that I added in with some standard wetland replication conditions with monitoring requirements that are required through the bylaw regulation. And I think that pretty much covers it. So, I mean, I can let the project team go in and give any updates they want to as well. And then if there's any questions about the draft permit, I'm happy to answer those too.
It would seem to me, Mr. Chairman, this is David Barnacle. It would seem to me that it would be appropriate at this juncture, since all of the commission members have already read the data and have read what it is that we are going to ultimately sign, that we should ask for any input from the public and then simply take a motion in order to approve or disapprove of the project. because I think that any further discussion has already been had, perhaps even multiple times.
Any members wish to speak?
Is there any
I
public?
agree, Steve Halterman.
Seeing none.
Oh,
I'd like
wait,
to go to-
Holly has to ask.
What? Yeah, I know. I was going to get to that after the members. Yep.
All members of the board.
Holly?
Hold on. Is there any public on the line for the 7:15 public hearing for 6 Picker Road? 6 Picker Road, 7:15 public hearing, public comments? No comments.
No comment. Mr. Barnacle, would you like to make a motion?
I would like to make a motion that we approve, for me, first of all, get my glasses on. That we approve of the notice of intent DEP file number 300-1062 with all of the indications that we have from our agent.
Do I have a second?
Steve Halterman, I'll second that.
Eric Gaspar will second that.
I was waiting for you, Steve.
I know you were. You're a gentleman. Taking care of old people.
Any further discussion on? Seeing none.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Mr.
Hang on. Yeah, is that going to include approving VHB as the monitor? That's a request that they have, so we need to approve or disapprove of VHB so they can get going and on the project.
Becky, wasn't that in the Becky? Was that in the order of conditions?
So how it's written in the orders of conditions is what you and I had discussed before about having 3 proposals submitted for your review. They did submit the VHB, and I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that in my notes earlier. So I reviewed the material. I'm familiar with VHB. I think they're reputable and they're a qualified firm. So I don't have a concern with that. I did provide you with what they gave me in advance, but I did draft the condition as previously discussed with the chair. So I think that, you know, you can decide right now if you're okay with just reviewing that one.
No. Stephen, are you interested in recommending VHB? I'm sorry, Stephen. Steve Haldeman. He was the one that was speaking.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I've worked with them many times. They're fine.
All right.
It's a lot of minis.
Do I have a second on that? Eric
Gaspar, second.
This is just for the for VHB as the.
Well, wait a minute.
Okay.
Ed, you have a motion on the floor before VHD. You can add that as an amendment.
Yeah, but we can't. That's what I'm trying to do is make it an amendment to the motion by assuring that that's who we want, because then it's in there. So I'm doing this as process within our motion. Okay. So Steve Haldeman, you're all set with it?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Barnacle?
David Barnacle in favor.
Stephen Chidester?
Stephen Chidester in favor.
Eric Gaspar?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. Now, to the motion that Mr. Barnacle has on the floor and has been seconded. Is there any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all in...
Ed,
Go ahead, David, what?
I thought we just had an amendment to that motion.
We did. Just voted. Okay. All right. Now we're voting on the motion as it exists with VHB in there.
Right.
Steve Haldeman.
Steve Halterman in favor.
Mr. Barnacle.
David Barnacle in favor.
Stephen Chidester.
Stephen Chidester in favor.
Eric Gaspar.
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Ned Goodwin in favor. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Becky, what are you going to do for the next 5 minutes?
I have stuff to do,
Oh, no, it's 9 minutes. No, it is 5. Yeah. Go ahead.
because we're ahead of schedule. All right, so we have a.
No, we're not.
Wow.
All right, we have a request for certificate of compliance. This is for 59 New Boston Road, SCC number 19-51. The property owner applicant is 123 Kids LLC. So this is local orders of conditions. We did receive the request for certificate of compliance. I did go out and do a site inspection. I don't have any concerns with stabilization of the site. The only thing that happened for the project is that they flipped the location of the house and the septic. So they did submit the as-built plan that does reflect that. I don't have any concerns with it. They should have, when they decided to make that revision, come back at that time. But in this situation, I don't see that there's any concerns with it, and I've made them aware of the fact that those type of approvals are required prior to implementation. So I don't have any concerns
Is
with
Board of Health? Is Board of Health good with that?
Yep, Board of Health has received a request for a certificate from them as well. So there was perks at both locations, so.
Oh, there were. Okay. All right. That was my question. All right. We have a motion to approve.
So moved, David Barnacle.
So,
We have a second.
Eric Gaspar, second.
Eric, yes, second. Any discussion? All in favor? Eric?
Eric Gaspar.
Steve Haldeman?
Steve Halterman in favor.
Stephen Chidester?
Stephen Chittister in favor.
David Barnacle?
David Barnacle in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. What's next, Beck?
All right, so just quickly for a letter permit, we do have a tree removal request for 332 The Trail. We did perform a site visit out here last week. It's removal of multiple trees, one being a multi-stem maple, there's a dead birch, and removal of about 4 to 5 small hemlocks on the site. So we performed a site visit. I don't have any concerns with the removal, and due to the amount of canopy in trees that exist in the site, I wouldn't recommend any replacements for that. Just so you're aware, when we were out there, we did note some significant erosion along Mount Dan Road into the stream there. Just so you're aware, I did meet with DPW out there today, and we're going to get in touch with the Lake Association in particular. I think they have their own road association on Mount Dan, and work with them to get that done. So we probably will be looking at some type of emergency authorization to address that out there. But I just wanted to let you know I did follow up on that.
All right, so we're back to the tree removal.
Yeah, sorry.
Steve Haldeman, what did you think? You were out there.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I have no problem.
Eric?
Yeah, I was out there as well. I have no problem.
And he did say he was putting in 5 arborvitaes along that area where he was taking out the baby hemlocks that weren't performing very well. So I have no problem with it either. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Steve
Haldeman, second.
Steve Haldeman, yeah. And Eric Gaspar, second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Stephen Chidester?
Stephen Chittister, I approve.
Eric Gaspar?
Eric Gaspar, I approve.
Steve Haldeman?
Steve Halterman, I approve.
And Dave Barnacle?
David Barnacle, I approve.
And Ed Goodwin, I approve. All right, Beck?
It's 7:30 now.
7:30.
What's next? Yep, 7:30. Right. Okay, we are talking about 27 Ladd Road, DP file number 1056, continued from August 18th. R. Jennings, 508 International is the applicant. A. Salou is the owner. O'Neill, representative, replacement of decking on an existing telephone pole bridge.
Mr. Chair, this is Stephen Chittister. I'm recused for this here. And the next one.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Yep.
So
Becky?
I don't.
We have an applicant?
Yeah,
here?
I don't see the applicant or the listed representative or the property owner on here. I do see their wetland consultant and engineer on here. I'm not sure if they're representing them this evening. Oh, looks like we have Mr. O'Neill on the public line here. We're going to turn up the volume.
Donald O'Neill on behalf of the applicant 508 International, and I believe also Andrew Baum from Summit Engineering, and I was also expecting Glenn Kravosky from EBT Environmental to be present as well. I'm on the phone, so I don't have any visual, but you're here. Okay. We're if you want us to proceed, then what I would do is I would defer at this point to Mr. Baum and Mr. Kravosky, and maybe Andy could lead off and inform the board as to what the revisions to the plan. And I understand also that you had a site visit between this last meeting and the current meeting, and I think it's probably makes sense just to let him lead the discussion on our end. And I would be available for any questions that you have. I'd ask him to proceed.
Yep. One thing that maybe you could probably clarify as the attorney, it's come to our attention that 508 International has been closed down.
Closed down by.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Sure. Closed down by who?
By the court.
Well, that's news to me. I have not heard that.
Becky, this is not recent. This is, Becky, have you got the date?
Yeah, so it's been brought to our attention that it was involuntarily dissolved by the court in June of 2019. And that's from the Secretary of State's website.
Oh, yeah. So not the court. No, you're not talking about Superior Court. You're talking about the Secretary of State, corporation's office in terms of the annual reports that are filed annually with the Secretary of State. So it's news to me, but it's easily remedied, and it's something that we can take care of. I don't see how it has any bearing, basically, on what's before the commission. How do you remedy it? Still has legal existence, even if dissolved for a period of 3 years, and can be basically just pay the filing fee for the annual report, and you're back in.
I know, I understand that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I know how anxious the board was.
This is my question.
And that's why we've been doing this work. And I wouldn't really see any reason to delay this if we're ready to proceed this evening, unless you want to delay it further for some reason.
I just think there's a concern with the applicant if they move forward with a issuance of any type of permit, naming an entity that doesn't exist anymore. So my recommendation would be that the applicant is revised on that if they proceed forward with this application.
Well, it would have been helpful if someone had told me this, if you've known about it for some period of time.
Well, we actually just found out about it.
No, you haven't really.
Earlier today. However, I think there's no reason if we should proceed, and then if you want to hold up the issuance of the final order, I mean, basically it's going to take you a while to type that up anyway. You know, I think you could make it a condition that it be reinstated with the Secretary of State prior to the issuance of any order of conditions. I would have no objection to that.
Mr. O'Neill, isn't it incumbent on your...
I'm sorry, if
Isn't
somebody's
it incumbent
breaking up.
Who's speaking?
Somebody's making a lot of noise.
Yeah, I don't know.
We get him to come in through the meeting line, because we're going to have two public hearings, and if it's going to have this, it's going to be really annoying.
That's a good point.
Can we just
Mr.
take
O'Neill, could you come in?
beat and have him go in?
I thought I was through the meeting line.
You're on the public access line, and someone else on the public access line has to go to a meeting up, so we're getting feedback through the system. So we're going to give you another phone number to call into the actual meeting. Is that all right?
Okay. Yes.
Okay, you got a pen?
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Okay. 646-749-3122. And then your access code is 132-862-045.
Okay. Access code 132-62045.
132-862.
Oh, 862. Okay.
045.
Okay. So I'll hang up and I'll call back.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll wait for you.
Thank you. Yep.
Mr. Chairman,
Sorry, I couldn't have tolerated that for the whole time.
Is there anyone else on the...
Good.
Mr. Chairman, hold on 1 second, please. Is there anyone else on the public line?
Sure.
Hello, is there anyone else on the public line? Okay. Yeah, so your feedback issues are resolved at this point.
Excellent.
Okay, let's see if he makes it in.
Mr. Chairman, it doesn't seem that it's incumbent upon us to inform Mr. O'Neill about his client having 508 interrupted.
That was pretty funny.
But it's easily remedied. All he has to do is pay $500 a year.
150.
What?
Here he is.
150.
He just came in.
It's $500 a year.
Hello?
Our business corporation.
I'm back.
Yep. Say 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
Good.
Make sure you
Excellent.
mute your computer.
Okay. I don't have it. It's easy because it's not on.
Okay, good.
I'm just on a telephone.
Great.
Perfect.
All right, now we are back on. So, Becky, do you want to start?
Sure. So since the last meeting, we did go out and perform a site visit, looked at the bridge structure, where the crossing is, a revised plan did come in for that. So with that said, I've recently gone through that plan. I mean, there's still some things that appear to be outstanding, and I went back through the original notice of intent. So when the original notice of intent was filed, it was for the replacing of the decking. So since the filing has evolved to cover the work, I mean, the project team needs to look at the application and revise the materials. So I think they originally filed for a category 1, which this project wouldn't appear to be. It'd be a category 2. In addition, I still don't have the BVW data sheets. One of the things that we asked for, which a portion was added on there, was the rest of the trail. So really, the plan should show, the resource area delineation going up towards the road. The trail should be shown up there. Specs for the trail should be shown. All the buffer zones should be shown and labeled on the plan. The actual bank flagging should be shown versus a stake, I think, on the plan, which was left on there. And then as well, with that, now that we've looked at some revisions to the bridge structure, which they've incorporated. I just want to make sure, and it's not clear to me, that what exactly the wetland replication is covering now too. There was some questions in an email about adding stuff to the plan afterwards. So, I mean, there's a lot of outstanding questions with it at this point too. There's the concern with the applicant on there, and then also in light of other recent things that's been brought to our attention. It has become apparent that on the properties in Sturbridge that 508 International is using, there is motorized vehicles that have been used out there. So, it needs to be defined about the use, and I think there's some questions and concerns with that needs to be clarified. And then also, I think the application, if this is not to be for any motorized vehicle uses, which would be a concern, really needs to be revised to reflect the actual uses that will be here. In addition to that, we know too that if events are being held there, there are structures that have been put up. What are those, and what are the areas within the buffer zone that are going to be used? And then how is the resource area going to be protected while these events are going on? So I still think there's a lot of outstanding questions, and at this time, it would appear to me that we're still in a position that the application would appear to be incomplete, and that we're not, not meeting performance standards at this time. So there's just still, for me, I think there's a lot of outstanding things, and I wouldn't recommend moving forward with any approval at this time.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, with respect to what's on the plan, in terms of the replication and the rest of the information, I would defer to Andy Baum on that.
Okay.
And seems to me some of the other issues that were raised are really, the comment that basically that the application has been modified to basically address the entire bridge, not just the decking. Of course, that was done at the board's request, and so we did revise at the board's request. So if it's just a box that needs to be checked on the application, one says Category 1 and the other says Category 2, seems like a rather minor item that could be easily remedied, and would be helpful if we have. Seems that it's a little bit of a moving target in that there's this list, and it always comes back that it's incomplete. So we should really transcribe the list that Becky has provided and then address all of those items and hope that there's not another list that comes up the next time we have a meeting of some other piece of information that's been missing. In terms of the 508 International being needing to file an annual report with Secretary of State, that really is a minor detail, has nothing to do with anything that's before the board. And in terms of events being held out there, there have been no events held out there. There is something called COVID-19, which basically is still in effect. They have not been holding events. Everybody knows they haven't been holding events. So there is no activity that's been going on out there. With respect to the other concerns that I understand that board's jurisdiction is the areas of wetland concern, and that's, of course, what we're before you for. Some of the other activities in terms of we have agreed with the town that we have no plans to use the trail system in Sturbridge for anything other than, foot races, basically. Well, let's put it this way, for no mechanized vehicles would be permitted or allowed. And that's still our intention, and that's been confirmed in writing with the town. So I'm not sure how that fits into, if there's a comment that Becky has some information that people have been using motorized vehicles in the wetlands areas, then I'd like to hear that and see the documentation for that. That would be news to me. And I suspect that if she had that, we would be hearing about it. So there's a lot of rumor mongering that's going on. And
No.
Yeah.
Do you have Google on your, if you just go in and Google 508 and go in and look at the red trail and listen to what they say as they ride around in their Jeeps, and if you take a walk on the red trail.
When was this information posted? Is this from 2 years ago?
I'm going to guess it was, well, I don't know the date of the post. I would say it's probably a year old.
No, there was in fact an activity and included Jeeps on August 1st of 2020.
August 1st
Yeah,
of
you
2020,
see it on
last month?
See it on YouTube.
Well, I don't. How do you see where the? I'm not sure the with the YouTube video how you can tell actually where you are if somebody's in a Jeep. But is it in the wetlands area that they were around the telephone bridge?
Yep.
Or?
And well, you got to
He saw where we walked. Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
I think we're getting off the track. Becky has made a list of what has not been provided to us. If there's a moving target, it's not us that's moving it. It's the target that's moving with new information. So we have a recommendation.
Do we have any plans of a bridge? Yeah. Glenn, do we have any plans for a bridge that we can bring up on the screen?
Thank you again, Chairman. Andrew Baum, the last of the plans that you just submitted, if I could ask, and that's Mr. O'Neill asked Mr. Baum on the last of the plans that we worked on the revisions for the 27 Lad Road. Chairman.
Do you want me to bring the plans up, Ed?
Yeah, let's bring them up.
Mr. Chairman, while you're looking at or waiting for the plans to come up, wonder if we could consider the fact that our agent indicated that the application as it stands was incomplete.
Can I address some of that, Mr. Barnacle, and through the chairman on that one matter?
Excuse me, Mr. Kabowski, I was looking for an answer from the chair, please.
Sorry, thank you.
Yeah. I was looking, David, to see if there was progress made with regard to the bridge that we could look at.
But if the plan is
incomplete, Mr. Chairman, if I could complete my thought, it appears to me that we have two options in front of us. One is to ask them to rescind or to withdraw their proposal and then come back with a completed plan as per the list that Becky has provided, or we deny it. The bridge is one part of it, and I'm happy to look at the bridge, but that's just one little part of this whole thing.
All right, Eric, what do you think? I'm not hearing you, Eric.
All right. I think we should just address what is at issue in this public hearing and not expand to the other properties.
I think we all agree on that. The question is, with the list that Becky gave of incomplete, where do you stand as far as moving forward is concerned?
I mean, we wanted a completed plan, so it was the incompleted information communicated to Andy to update the plan to provide to us for this meeting in timely fashion. I know we talked about it on site last Tuesday, but was he given enough time to address the items so he could get it physically on his plan?
I guess this is Becky. My only comment is, right, Andy, we did...
Andy, did you have enough time? What? He was there.
Mr. Chairman, when we met out on Tuesday, it was specific to the bridge construction, and we discussed in the field was how to elevate the bridge
the locations of the footings, which are outlined and dimensioned on that sheet and the subsequent sheet, as well as adding the trail. So if you look on the page north of that sheet, where that red dashed line, that is the aerial overlay of the trail that goes towards Ladd Road. We were not asked to delineate additional wetlands or pick up any additional flags. The wetlands were delineated as was shown on the plan that were done, that was submitted to you folks whenever the first date of this plan had occurred. So there's been no expansion, or to our knowledge, any request of additional expansion of wetlands. We just did show the GIS wetlands, and the town line was added to the plan so that you could see that the trail on the page south and heading to the east of the town line showed the approximate location of the trail network and how it crossed the town line in relationship to abutting wetlands. So we provided this plan, I believe, on Wednesday, the 25th, that's Wednesday, to the commission for their review. And there was some, in the field, there was some discussion about the impact of the poles and how they shadowed for with regards to the replication area. So that replication area that we discussed in the field was added, and the area computations shown in the plan notes that reflects the area, the cross-sectional area of the poles themselves. So the other things that Becky had listed, unfortunately, I was not aware of that.
Ed, can I add something, please?
Oh, the other things that you... Yeah, go ahead, Becky.
So, I think part of the problem is we don't have everybody on these calls at the same time. Like Mr. O'Neill wasn't on the last call, or maybe the one before that, I don't remember exactly. Back in February or March is when you said you wanted a complete plan to show all the work. Now, things like the trail and specifications and buffer zones and resource areas, those are things that you need to show. Adding the trail, I asked for the trail to be added on, but the trail ends, and we know we have resource area that goes to the north. Those are things that would be expected on a plan, and I think when you ask for a complete plan showing all of the work and activities back in February or March, that's what you expected to see. So I'm not adding new things on, but as we're seeing this information, these are things that are supposed to be added on, and I would think that the project team would be making those modifications with the plan, and maybe, we have a new engineer on here who wasn't part of the initial discussions. We don't have the applicant on here. We've just had the representative, the attorney, come back on. I think that's part of the problem and why this is taking so long too. So it's not that we're asking for new things. These are things that need to be shown on plans for applications in general, and asking for all the activities. That's not something new. That's something that was stated initially. So, I feel like, you're putting it back on us that we're asking for more things, but it's what was stated before. And just as a reminder, this is an enforcement order that is in court right now as well. So it keeps getting continued in court to do this. And, we've had a lot of continuations on this project that at some point, and I know you're working to revise these things. Now we have a new engineer on here as well, but how long is it going to take? And there was an initial comment about no activities out here. If you do, there is an injunction on this property, but I think just to clarify, there are activities happening on the properties in which 508 International is using. I just want to clarify that because the attorney said that earlier. If you go onto the website, there are Jeep events, there's ATV things and other things that aren't closed for COVID. So just want to clarify that there are things occurring. Whether or not they're occurring specifically on this property is unknown to me at this time, but they are occurring.
Chairman Blankovsky, I would ask Rebecca if I could that she put on the bridge cross section, which shows a lot more detail than you've seen before. Mr. Baum worked on it. There has been no activity in Sturbridge. So we can probably speak.
Actually, I'm trying to bring it up, Glenn.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Can't get
quite a good
what?
detail that Mr. Baum put together.
I can't get the damn thing on my.
It's there.
There you go. I know it's here. I can't,
on
I'm
the
not questioning that it's here.
It's on the screen.
Yeah.
Maybe you can enlarge it and Mr. Baum can discuss it.
Are you ready?
Yeah, if we,
So on that secondary sheet, those are the cross sections of the detail. So the top long elongated one is detailing the bridge. We had removed the earthen ramps and put in the wooden ramps. You can see the entire bridge has been elevated for the 2-foot clearance over the stream. As we discussed in the field, we only have 2 footings or rock foundations that are actually in the resource area, one adjacent to the intermittent stream, and then one in the bordering vegetated wetlands. And we're able to get the other 2 footings outside of the resource areas, utilizing those poles, and then ramp that to return to grade over the entire crossing. Then the 3 details that you see are the erosion controls in the middle, the replication area detail provided by EVT Environmental, and then there's a cross section of the bridge showing the decking and the spacing of the poles that carry the load, as well as a bolted on member on the bottom, or a fastened member on the bottom, to keep the ends from flexing individually with the load, and is restricted to 4 feet in width. And then the last detail on the bottom just shows the general decking orientation of the bridge deck itself. So that was all cleaned up based on what we had discussed last Tuesday at the site.
Right. Becky, do you disagree with anything that he's got here as far as what we talked about?
I'm just not clear about wetland restoration area for impact, if they've met all of that. So if we're taking into account, the footings, the revised footings, if that's all been accounted for with the revised replication.
Mr. Chairman, if you go to page 1 on the notes on the top, there's a note section that says required replication area, and that breaks down all the components that are proposed.
And that's been updated
How we came
since
up
the
with that
last
square
one?
footage. Yes, yep.
Glenn Kowalski, if I could speak to the replication area where is only where we're putting the footing down as required under 1053 clause for footbridges. And we chose an area that appeared that the original farmer had filled in. And when we went through the soil, approximately 1 foot of gravelly material, then we hit the original A horizon. And the area that we chose would be flooded by the regular stream and the flooding of that wetland system. And we had gone with the bylaw requirement, of course, for one replication. I glanced at it when we were at the site inspection. There's that multi-floor road sitting in the middle of it. It would match what the existing red maple swamp would look like planting, same as the red maple shrub swamp. That's all for that.
Mr. Barnacle?
Sir.
Comments?
None.
None. Eric?
Yeah, I'm just happy that there was finally something that we could actually work with on site and look at the plan as it is. I'm not at all happy as to how this has come together, but I'm fairly confident with having Andy put together the plans as they have been, and that's been an improvement. So I figured I would throw something positive into the ether. It needed it.
Mr. Haldeman? Well, I'm not sure that Becky would agree that everything that she asked for has been submitted. And so I would ask Becky
given the discussion and we'll call them rebuttals that you've heard from the project team, where do you stand on this? You're the one with the list in front of you. Recall, everybody, that we were ready to unplug this thing at the last meeting, and we said, in spirit of cooperation, let's give them one more meeting to provide all the information that we had requested. And some of this, like Becky said, goes back to the original. These are the things that should have been on a plan in the first place. So if Becky says she has everything and she's okay with this, then I would agree. But if it's still not complete, then I would not agree with this. So I defer to Becky. Sorry to put you on the spot.
So, I mean, at this time, I would say it's not complete, and you have two options. You can move forward if you want to grant a continuance. I guess you should evaluate that, and then you can also, if you feel like you don't want to move forward with it, your option would be to deny it for lack of information, and from what I would see is failure to meet the performance standards. But that's up to you. I mean, this has been going on for some time. You have given multiple deadlines to get things in. They have been working to address this. We just haven't been getting all of the information, I would say. So that's up to you.
Mr. Chairman, if you have a moment, Glenn Kowalski.
Go ahead, Glenn.
In the regulations, it does call for a public hearing can be open. I know you don't have to keep it open, but as long as the applicant is pursuing the closing of the hearing, there's language in there, the 1002, they talk about as much as 2 years. Of course, we don't want anything like that. This is the first. I did not file the notice of intent. If I did, you would have the proper filing. I came in on this thing, and I'm not making excuses for myself. I'll be brief, right? This is it. That the filing fee, I'm not aware of it. I didn't even see the notice. Maybe I should have delved into it after somebody else filed it, then just asked me to just flag at the bridge. But now that I hear, and I'd like to see this written list if possible, but I wrote it all down what you said in this intro. We will jump into and file the additional paperwork for the Category 2 and not the Category 1. If additional wetlands need to be flagged till they're over 100 feet of wetlands, well, I guess we're not bringing in the other project, but that's not how the other either. So I guess everything would have to be flagged 100 feet away. That wasn't quite the discussion over there. But over here, if we're discussing everything within 100 feet of this trail, well, we'll then move to the next step and flag everything within 100 feet of the trail. We didn't want to put the trail on the map to show that it is on top of a ridge and not going through wetlands, with the question on the Podunk one. But again, the filing fees, let's get, I'm looking at your list. Easily we'll get that taken care of. As you're looking for everything you can find, and that's your job, Mr. Sandro. The BBW sheets show they draft all trails, banks shown, Mr. I think we need the bank just underneath the bridge, and if Mr. Baum picked up the 4 flags, it will show the size of the bank. We have the replication detail. Mr. O'Neill will clarify the applicant's name. Do you know actual uses? I think we're here just for a trail, and we'll clean up.
You're here for a bridge, really?
Huh?
You're just here for a bridge.
Bridge and trail, and all activities.
What? Yeah, and trail. Yeah, trail at that point. Yeah.
Initially, that's how I was called in. So we can fix that notice and take a look at the whole thing. Whatever errors that are on it, whatever square footages are not clarified on that NOI, so we have proper square footage that Mr. Baum now has put in there. The sheets, the data. I have your list. Would always like a list from the agent. Make sure we're covering everything that you have down on paper. Again, that's all I'm saying. Wrap up the new things that I didn't hear Category 2 before. I didn't know what the other people had filed. Yes, maybe I should have asked. Here I am.
Now, Mr. Chairman, could I briefly comment?
Sure.
And all I would say is that I understand that this has taken some time for sure, And early on, there wasn't a lot of progress, but there were some effects of the shutdown and so forth in terms of some of the activity that was delayed because of that. So there's no question that has had some effect, on moving forward in terms of timing. I do think that we've made considerable progress, in the last month, since Andy's got involved and Glenn has also, taken an active role in terms of putting together the information that you're looking for. So it does, and I think that, progress has been made and that a lot of work has been accomplished within that period. And it seems to me that it is, pretty close to being, complete in all respects in terms of what the information that you're looking for. So I would ask for the Commission's indulgence and I know that there was some discussion about, one more time, but it would seem that, that a continuance with a clear, communication as to precisely what's requested and what's needed would be appropriate, particularly since all of the work and recognition of the work that has been done. So I would make that request, and I'm not sure that a denial with an immediate refiling. I don't know that that's really the best way to move forward and to get this completed.
Thank you. Board members, as I look at this bridge, and when we were out on site, this is pretty much or close to what we asked for. I think that it meets what was said out there. Eric? Yep. Steve? Did we ask for anything different than this?
Well, for the bridge is fine. I think.
Okay, I just want, if we're going to send it off with a continuance, I don't want to have them come back and find out that there's something that you don't like.
No. I appreciate you asking everybody. The bridge is part of it, but it's not all of it. And the information that Becky requested, and last week or the last meeting, we were ready to deny this thing, and I specifically asked for a commitment to say that by this meeting they would have everything that Becky had requested. And they committed to do that. And I said, Becky, have you given them everything? And she said yes. And I asked the team, have you got everything? You have a list? You understand? And they said yes. And I said, okay. Well then, I reluctantly say give them another 2 weeks. And here we are. Deja vu all over again. Anyway.
So what do you recommend?
I think the reality, this is Eric, if I can speak. I think the reality is we can, if we don't want to give the continuance, we want to deny this, they're going to come back and it's just going to be more time on us.
Right. So
they are not wrong. They are making progress. And the 1 versus 2 conversation, I believe that's the first time I've heard anything on that. So there are some things that seem like some slight new information, at least to my ears. So I would be in favor of, in the interest of putting this to bed sooner rather than later, to just continue it for another 2 weeks and pray to God that this, they come back with everything and we're able to make a final decision. But the reality is, it isn't going away. It'll just come back to us, and we'll be kicking the can down the road, and we'll be talking about this in months, and I really don't want to.
Okay. Before I ask for a continuation, can we go to the audience?
I'd like to ask a question, though, if I could, Mr. Chairman.
Sure, go ahead, Dave.
David Barnacle. Greg, Andrew, and Attorney O'Neill, you guys have the item that was sent out by Becky that indicated most of the items that would be required in order for us to take a vote back in March that was submitted. Because my guess is, and I agree with Eric, instead of kicking the can down the road, what we need to do is to have everybody talking about the same thing. It would appear to me that information that is provided in the past has not been submitted to the people who are working on the project in the present. Therefore, let's make sure that you have a copy of the document that was sent out by Becky that indicated all of the items required. If you don't have it, then we'll get you another copy of it. That way, if we agree to a continuation, everybody's on exactly the same page as to what is required. It is not our fault if some of the items were not relayed to a team that sometimes gets changed or modified. We provided the information back in March. It's now October, and we haven't got a result on this thing yet. And that's one of the reasons that the commission is showing so much angst. So what say you, Andrew, and others?
They've already said that they will come back with what we're looking for. So
I wanted to make sure, Ed, that they have what we're looking for.
They do, Dave. And if they can't communicate between themselves, well, that's not our fault. I think that there's been tremendous lack of respect of this board, and that's why somebody cannot. Anyway, I've said my piece.
All right, I'm going to ask for Holly. Can you check to see if there is anyone in the audience who would like to speak?
Is there any public on the line for the 7:30 public hearing for 27 Ladd Road? Any public comment for 27 Ladd Road? No public.
Glenn's got cats
That was an icebreaker, Glenn. That was an icebreaker. I like it. Nice cat. Cute cat.
Holly?
Yes, there's no public.
No public? All right. I would like to propose a continuation. We have a request for a continuation from the applicant. Mr. Barnacle, how do you vote?
David Barnacle, no continuation.
No continuation. Steve Haldeman?
No continuation.
Eric Gasper?
I'll approve the continuation.
And I'll approve the continuation. We have 2-2, so there is no continuation. Mr. Barnacle, would you like to make a motion?
What extent?
I don't know. Well,
we made a negative.
We're at 2-2.
2-2, right. Got to be 3-1 to move forward. Do I have any proposal?
Hang on a sec. Let me work something out. I don't see what we can do, Ed. We didn't have the votes.
Yeah, I know. Either way.
So you're saying that we don't have, unless it's 3-1, we can't deny it or approve, we could approve it.
Correct. Either way.
It has to be a majority of the board members present. Since we have one abstention or one recusal, that means that we have to have a majority of 4. And a majority of 4 is 3.
Now we need to address this, gentlemen. They're going to come back one way or the other. Yeah, I suggest we give them another 2 weeks.
Representative talk, or is it, are you?
Then, Mr. Chairman, why don't you make a motion to reevaluate the previous motion?
All right, I'd like to make a motion. I would like to reevaluate previous motion. Discussion?
Yeah, just in case legally, Mr. Chairman, just in case legally it has to be somebody who voted against it. I recall this coming up when I was chairman of the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah.
So
right.
I voted against it, so I move that we reconsider the motion.
That's a really good catch, Steve. Thank you. I'll second that.
Now, from my point of view of discussion, I think that the bridge that we got from Andrew met all the, although I'm not saying it met what we were looking for the bridge. We had a discussion out there, and what Andrew brought us back was what we discussed. It's a 6-foot wide bridge, which, by its size is not going to be advantageous to driving a Jeep over. That's for damn sure. And it seems to meet all the criteria of the Wetland Protection Act if we can get the details that Becky's looking for. And I don't want to overrule Becky from the point of view of the detail that she does and undermine her in any way. But I think we need to have a continuation so that she can give them one more shot at getting what we need.
Can I make a suggestion? This is Eric. Just to make sure that everything is absolutely crystal clear, I know that we asked the applicants and their agents if they have all of the information that was submitted in March, but could I request that we actually push that to them so we can be crystallized that information has been put into their hands recently?
Put it in their hands.
And then there can be no question and no rebuttal to that it has been sent and done, and then they will be crystal clear as to what we are looking for. Does that seem reasonable?
It does. Steve, anything?
Yeah, it's not the end of the world if we give them an extension for another 2 weeks again.
All right.
So I'm not sure. So
I'm
we
asking for an extension.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Chairman,
Who's speaking?
that's Andy Baum. I didn't mean to interrupt, but we're talking about 2 weeks. I personally would request 4. If we're looking for additional delineation and location work, it is a holiday week next week, and our ability to turn that around in a timely fashion so the commission has time to look at it and make sure that they have it. And I don't even know what Glenn's schedule is in order to delineate.
Okay.
So,
For the chairman,
all right.
I would have time to get it done within the 2 weeks, but then you would be picking up those flags. So I'm over my head with flagging right now. So I would ask, I agree. But one thing that a chairman, the bridge is now 4 feet wide, not 6 feet. Cut it down so nobody can travel over.
All right, must have read it wrong on that plan.
Yeah, the new bridge is 4 feet.
Correct.
What, 4 feet? Excellent.
Yep.
So, Mr. Chairman, are you looking
Andy-
for a motion
Andy-
that we? Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Steve.
I was just going
We
to say, are
extend
you
it
looking
for
for a
4 weeks.
motion to extend this process for 4 weeks instead of 2
4 weeks. October 4th.
Okay. I will make that motion, and I will include in that Eric's suggestion that we make absolutely positively sure, again, that they know what's before them. And I can respect, Andy, that you could use 4 weeks and not 2. We're going to extend it 2, then why not 4? So that's
All
my
right.
motion.
Okay, Eric, how do you vote?
Yep. Approved.
I approve. Steve, you vote? You approve?
I approve.
And David?
David Barnacle, approve.
Okay, we have 4. All right. And Andrew, I want to tell you that, there's no such thing as a holiday anymore.
No, unfortunately.
With COVID,
Veterans Day.
Before we start the Good Humor Club, Ed, you mentioned that it was October 4th. It isn't. It's October 6th.
October 6th? David, I was trying to get that stuff 2 days earlier. Thank you.
I think we needed to.
All right, we are now on to Ladd Road.
Oh,
Okay.
hold on.
Oh, actually, it is.
Podunk Road.
Podunk.
Ed, before you move on,
B and 20.
sorry,
205. What?
that continuation
Go
for
ahead.
the public hearing for 27 Ladd Road, that's going to be October 6th at 7 o'clock.
Thank you. Thank you. Now we are on 25B and 25C, Podunk Pike. Notice of intent, DEP file number 300-TBA. Continued from August 18th, 2020. R. Jennings, 508 International is the applicant and owner, and Brant and Irish Jennings, owner, and D. O'Neill, representative, development of recreational trails. All right.
So, Mr. Chairman, once again, Donald O'Neill. If I'm anticipating some similar comments in terms of if there is, I'm throwing out the option if the commission wants to keep these two. Seems to me it makes sense to keep them together. I guess one possibility would be to have a discussion and see, clarify what additional information, if any, is needed for this application, or we could, agree that whatever it is that Becky is requesting, that information be, provided to us, and that this just be continued with the other item, or I'm open to whatever commission, however you want to proceed is fine with me.
All right. Becky?
Yep, so this application is currently incomplete. At the August 4th meeting, I did inform the representative that the application was incomplete. I have brought that up a couple times since this has been submitted. There's still no proof that it was submitted to DEP. DEP confirmed that they have not received anything from them. In addition to 27 Ladd Road, I did mention before that the fee category needs to be reevaluated. I do not have BVW sheets for the delineation. And then also too, we had the site visit since the last meeting. We did discuss the 205 C parcel, there's really nothing in the application that says that that's been looked at. We talked about in the field, there was a dead end for that trail, having that connected, there was a revised plan that did reflect that. This is a pretty big site, lots of wetlands on these properties. I mean, it's a large property, so if this application is for 205B and 205C, we need to make sure that all the resource areas have been shown. When we were out in the field.
So we need to end this.
Right, that still needs to be done. And since it's such a big property, the commission can evaluate the need for a peer review. In addition, we did discuss out in the field, one of the things I did mention was that there is McKinstry Brook, which is a perennial stream. So they did pick that up. We talked about just picking that up from GIS at this point and putting that on the plan so we can get a look and see where that buffer zone is. It does look like there's trails within riparian areas. So, I mean, the whole application, I think, needs to be relooked at because when it was originally filed, you know, now if we have riparian area, that river, now if the GIS is showing that project is within riparian area, they do need to go out and pick up the brook out there. So we have the exact line for bank out there as well. So there's quite a few things that need to be done for that. In addition, you know, as I mentioned for the last public hearing, you know, specifications for the trails are important to know, just having a dotted line, you know, trail width, things like that, so it's very clear on there. In addition, I mean, all of the buffer zones should be shown. Like I said, we have to add the riparian area in there. So, I mean, I've said this a few times, you know, previously that not just because of the plan, but because of the application, that it is incomplete at this time. So I think that, you know, you have, like I said last time, my job is to present you with what your options as a board are. I mean, we still don't have proof that this has been filed with DEP, and I think we received this application in July. Your options are either you can give them a continuation to address everything if you feel that that's appropriate, or you would be in a position to deny this project because it's incomplete. It doesn't appear to meet performance standards at this time. So those are your options.
I would recommend we continue it for 1 month in coordination with the other.
That's not going to be enough time, Ed, in my opinion. Beck, this is quite different than the other piece. Anyway, I'm not sure that a month is going to do it for these guys, but I would ask Glenn and Andy. But that's a lot that's missing here, and I think we're at risk of having them come back and say we don't have it all.
Yeah,
Glenn, what do you got to say?
Thank you again. At the crossings, yes, we have that done. That was fast and Mr. Bob has a lot of picking up of flagging that this would be impossible in 2 months. Bob confirms. This is extensive extensions of wetlands. We have the wetlands at the trails. If we're going to go out to the zone and flag the riverfront also, I would ask the riverfront in the north is far enough away, but the one paralleling 49, that one has to be picked up. I've shown again that we're not anywhere near the northern end of the trail, so I know that, but I agree with Beck. I agree that any resource area needs to be identified. The notice of intent has to be revised to give a square footage of riverfront area total on the property, just like any notice of intent and ask those questions. We'll have to extrapolate through the total area percentage that we're all that we're 100 feet away. I won't say.
All right, Eric, what do you think?
Yeah,
David?
I'm okay with the extension.
Okay.
I'm not okay with this extension, especially because it would appear that there has been no application made to DEP. So why are we moving forward when DEP has not even get paperwork yet? It seems to me that 6 months is plenty of time to get the paperwork to DEP. But that hasn't happened. So why are we moving?
Mr. Chairman, Donald O'Neill, I've been told that my client has proof of mailing to DEP, and I don't know whether that's been provided to they don't, I guess they don't have proof of receipt, but they're proof of mailing to DEP. I don't know whether that's been provided to the conservation agent or not.
Sorry, this is Becky. That hasn't been provided, and I did ask DEP, and they don't have record of the application.
And I asked, Jim, DEP only wants notice of intent now by PDF. So if the application was done by Amber Howard and she didn't know enough to not mail it to DEP,
No, they want it both.
there might
I think she mailed it.
Oh,
I think she also
that's
sent
internal
the
to you
payment
guys.
in the lockbox, which I guess we have a canceled check that would be an indication that they received it.
So, as Glenn knows, I mean, we have an instruction sheet, the check goes one place and the application goes to another. It's in the application package. I mean, I contacted DEP, not the lockbox where the fee goes. I contacted the Central Region Wetland Section. They don't have the application. That's what I was told.
Oh, no, I'm just saying they were both mailed at the same time. So if there's some speculation or concern that nothing was ever mailed to you know, the local office, but they went ahead and sent their application, sent the application money in, it may just be that you know, there's something's not right there, but I don't in any way believe that, you know, that this wasn't, you know, that it wasn't sent to them. It may not have been sent so that in a fashion that they recognize it, as Glenn has just said, if it's not a PDF. But I think that is something which, I mean, if it has to be redelivered to them, I mean, that's certainly, you know, certainly something which we can do. But my understanding was that I was told that it was mailed to them. And hearing from Glenn that mail's not sufficient, then that maybe explains why they're not indicating they received it.
Okay.
But there's proof of mailing.
I mean, it just makes Mr. Barnacle's point, though, and Mr. Haldeman's. Is 4 weeks enough?
I would defer to I mean, it's you know, to Glenn and Andy because it's you know, it gets more frustrating to. One of the problems with the 2 week is you really only have a week because you've got to get it, you know, completed and then back to you. So 4 seems longer, but I don't know if the scope of the work. I would just defer to them in terms of you know, a realistic date so that we're not setting ourselves up for you know, certain failure.
All right. What do you want?
Yeah.
Glenn, what do you say? 6 weeks?
Chairman, I'm going to take hold of this notice of intent. I have a copy they have over there in Charlton. My office will take it. We'll look at the whole.
Yeah, but that's good, and I know you'll do that. But but Mr. Barnacle's and Mr. Haldeman's point is still, and Becky too. All of the work that needs to be done.
Yes.
It's a great deal of work that needs to be done on the ground, and then we've got to go out and look at it, and then you know, you have to put together a plan.
I'm making sure, Chairman, that the notice of intent is PDF to DEP within the next couple of days. If it has,
It's just one thing.
I know.
It's just one thing.
That's the least important part of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, Mr. Chairman, it sounds to me like 6 weeks is certainly it's a month's probably not going to be enough.
Yeah. Particularly with the holiday, right, Andy?
Well, I do have a genuine safety concern. You're talking about delineating a riverfront, and I'm looking at an aerial view that's a swamp. And that's going to be near impossible to safely delineate and have my guys field locate for something that's probably even farther away and likely has some form of impoundment at the discharge before it gets to Ladd Road.
So probably would like something from Becky is, are we just delineating stuff within 200 feet of the trail network? And that's the limit rather than the entire property?
Correct. You only need to show your delineation where it's going to project a buffer zone where you have projects or activities. So you don't need to do the entire property. It's just where there's projects or activities. So.
Okay. Right.
Within 200 feet of all of your work.
Okay. Yeah. Now, we're going to need details of this. We're going to need to know width of trail. I mean, it's not a logging road. It's a width of trail, trail construction in and around the wetland. What?
Becky's already given instructions.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Can I ask one question before we close this out? On your site visits, did any of you guys see any tracked vehicle marks on the trails over there on the Podunk Road site?
We saw deep ruts where vehicles had driven
deep ruts.
Not
not
necessarily tracks, like a Jeep drove on it. And then we saw on YouTube, we saw a Jeep on the trail, the red trail that we hiked. I recognized parts of it. So, yeah, no track vehicle tracks, but tires, like Jeep tracks.
All right, so we had a continuation for 6 weeks. Any other discussion on this?
So you want to do it October 20th? I'm sorry, November 20th?
Is that what it comes out to? 20th?
Hold on.
Yep. Monica's just trying to make me get it wrong again.
Also, we might need to have public chime in on this before we close it out, Ed.
Yeah. Well, there was a soliloquy at the beginning that said they wanted to move it out.
So we have 2 dates for meetings in October. We have October 6th, which is 5 weeks, and then we have October 20th, which is 7 weeks. And then the next meeting after that is November 3rd at 9 weeks.
So what do you recommend, Beck? What's closest to 6?
The 20th?
All right. Monica, you were right again.
Here's just a possibility. It's just, why don't we ask them to withdraw, repackage it, add all this information that we need, and then they tell us when they are ready to have a hearing. It's just a thought. Withdraw.
Yeah. I'm going to go along with the continuation. We got to have communication somewhere along the line, or we're not going to get there, and we want to get there. So, I would say this: I would ask the board to consider distances from wetlands that they would need for motorized vehicles. In other words, if we're driving Jeeps on a hillside, they're certainly going to be spewing a heck of a lot more mud down the hill than and into the wetland than, say, a bicycle is.
Or we can say no motorized vehicles. Then we don't.
Yeah.
There won't be Jeeps spewing mud.
All right, so we are looking at all in favor of November 20th for a continuation.
October.
November.
It's October 20th.
Yeah, I think it's October.
October 20th.
October 20th?
Please.
All right.
Wait a minute. Before October 20th is only 2 weeks away. We're talking.
No. This is September 1st. We get all of September.
October 20th, right.
Yep. Okay. All right. Monica, you all right with that?
Yes, David Barnacle approves.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Eric?
Yeah, I'm okay with it. Do we need to go to the public just to?
Yeah, we should.
Compliant?
Holly, can you check with the public?
Is there any public on the line for the 7:45 public hearing for 205B and 205C Podunk Pike? Any public on the line for 7:45 public hearing, 205B and 205C Podunk Pike? No public.
There's no public.
All right, gentlemen? Yep. So did we complete that vote? We did, right?
I think you need to vote to give a continuation.
There's the issue of,
Wait, continuation? Let me do it one more time, just so we know we have it. Mr. Barnacle, are you in favor of a continuation?
David Barnacle in favor.
Steve Haldeman?
Steve Halterman in favor.
Eric Gaspar?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor. All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. And we'll be sure to get our list.
Yeah. I would be...
We've been forewarned. I will say that for sure. And I appreciate your consideration and giving us this additional opportunity to keep this going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience.
We're good at
All right,
forewarning.
Becky, what's next? Yep.
So we have another letter permit request for tree removal. This is for 92 McGargle Road. I performed a site visit here and provided you with the application and photos. There's 3 requests for tree removals. One is just the limbing of a tree, which is near Lead Mine Lake. On the backside of the property, there is a stream and bordering vegetated wetland. And there are 2 additional trees over there, which they're asking to completely remove. Both trees appear to have, one has insect damage with rot, and the other has a hollowed out base with rot on the tree. Both appear to be declining. One is approximately, they're both actually, just to clarify, both are actually over 100 feet from the lake. And they're about 30 to 70 feet from the wetland. So I don't see any concerns, and I don't see the need for any replacements on this property. There's a really good tree canopy on site. So I recommend approval.
Great. Any discussion? All in favor? Stephen?
Stephen Chittister in favor.
Eric?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Steve?
Steve Halterman in favor.
David? David Barnacle? David?
Barnacle has left the room.
David
I
Barnacle?
think his computer's frozen, yeah.
All right. And I'm in favor. So we will, 1 abstention. Becky, what's next?
So we did the new business center at Habsbrook under old business. I'm not sure if we have anyone else on the line for any of the agenda items. I guess I'll ask before I move forward. Is there anyone on the line for any of the remaining agenda items? Okay. First, under old business, we have Heinz Farm Invasive Species Monitoring Report. As you remember, we did have some funds available for management work on the Heinz property, and we did contract with Ganesh Tree back in the fall. We worked out a plan where they did autumn olive invasive species herbicide treatment, and what was done was it was a cut and a stump treatment. So we did receive a report just kind of summarizing that. I did ask them as part of that to go back out and see what the success of the treatment was. All of the specimens that he could relocate, were dead. So happy with that. I did ask, because we do have additional work that can be done out there, if he could put a proposal together to come back, with some additional funding that we have to do some additional work out there. So I'm planning on receiving that hopefully soon. And that's all.
Okay, great. Looked great. The pictures look great.
Yep. All right, and then,
One of the invasives that I truly hate.
Yep. So then, at our last meeting, so, DEP file number 300-684, this is 118 Lead Mine Lane. At the last meeting, we did go through, like enforcement violation, projects, to do a summary. One of them was this project. This is a property where there was an outstanding permit with, conditions that haven't been met, in addition to recent site work on the property, which included work within resource area, fill within resource area, and work within the buffer zone. So we had been working with the property owner to address those. He did come before the commission. As part of that work they were doing was to put in a new single-family house over there. You did grant permission for a perk test to be done out there. And we did follow up with them. At the last meeting, you did ask that I send a letter requesting additional information pertaining to the outstanding items and concerns that you had. So I did send that letter out. We did receive a response that there was a delay due to some family concerns, and that they would be submitting something to go over all of the items on that letter. So yesterday evening, we did receive a notice of intent application package for the construction of the new single-family house up there, which did include notes for restoration on that plan. So they did send something to address a portion of that. There's still some things related to that old permit that we didn't receive an update on.
Becky, can you hear me? Hello?
Oh, yep.
Hello? Rebecca?
Yep. Is that you, Gary?
It is. I'm sorry. I'm trying to read a little pad here and do this on speakerphone. So yeah, I did hear you. Thank you. I did, as you know, and you stated, and I apologize for the delay, but I did have family health issues that I was dealing with for actually a couple of months. Things are leveling out. I did talk with Norman Hill of Land Planning, and Bob Murphy. Bob Murphy was supposed to come and visit me this week to begin the plan for the other lot, which you said was from the old DEP file number. Again, you know that, I think the commission and yourself both know that I just want to get this done. I want to get it done right, and I've just had a delay in that process. Now, you did mention the NOI, and obviously out of that will become hopefully the OOC after the commission reviews and give me my steps for up above, and up above is lot 2. And I do want Mr. Murphy to begin with the work on the original lot, the old file that was project number that was assigned to, I think, Mr. Pinto, going back, who knows, 10 or 12 years. That I've inherited those issues. I want to clean it up. I think all you guys know that. So I am here just to give you that information. I'm glad you received the NOI. The perk test did pass. I do want to get it all cleaned up and just get it complete and follow the step-by-step process to finish it up nicely. So all you guys will be happy.
Great. All right, Becky?
That's all. That's all I have.
Yep. That's it? Do I have a motion?
Oh, no, sorry. That's all I have for that. I do have one more thing on our agenda.
Oh, okay.
So this is just, this is
Too
DEP.
bad. I tried.
So this is DEP file number 300-964. This is 226 Roy Road. This was an older project where there was a temporary driveway that was put in, that you guys gave an extension to his permit last year in order to take that temporary driveway out. That's actually going to be expiring towards the end of September. We had requested when we gave the extension to send send a plan on how he was gonna do that and restore the area per the orders of conditions, and get that done before the expiration of the permit. So that permit is expiring soon. I think it does expire right after our next meeting. We did send a letter to the property owner just reminding him of that and asked for an update for this meeting. I didn't receive anything, so I can follow up with him, but that permit will be expiring, I think right after our next meeting. So, you know, I'm not sure with COVID if that's caused delays or not, but we would need to give another extension so he can finish that work. But we'll have to discuss that with him.
If we're going to look at an extension, this is David Barnacle. We're going to look at an extension for that one. My suggestion is not more than 6 months. This has been dragging on for a considerable period of time.
Any disagreement on that?
For a year. It's been going on for a year.
Oh, it's way more than a year, Steve.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, you're right. I thought that seemed a little too, yeah.
Is there a time we want to put on it?
And for about 2.5 or 3 years, nothing was done on it. It was as if it was going to go away. So I think that we need to keep the reins on this horse a little bit shorter than normal.
Right.
Okay. What do you recommend?
That's,
Wait, I didn't hear. What?
let's.
So
anybody else hear?
I couldn't hear him, but there's I mean, there's nothing in.
He has an extension until.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so the extension expires after the next meeting. I guess what my recommendation at this point is that he needs to, we need that work to be done. So either he requests an extension and maybe you can give him, you know, before winter to get it done. So you give him an extension for maybe like Dave suggested 6 months just to get it done and closed out. And if he doesn't request the extension and commit to getting that done within that time period, then you need to figure out what the next steps to get that done, because that was part of the orders of conditions for that project. So, and I think with, you know, not, you know, saying because of COVID or not, I mean, the person's not on here to explain why, but, you know, we have given some extensions for other things that maybe it would be appropriate to move forward that way. That would be my recommendation at this point. And if it doesn't get done, and then you use your discretion on how you need to require that to get done, as it's a violation.
So you recommend he have it done by when, Becky?
Well, you would have to give an extension, but to have it done before winter, you know? So if you give him 6 months, I mean, he's got to, that would give him like March if you wanted to just do a 6 month.
To wait 4 months until the ground is frozen.
Or
Either
give
you're
it,
giving him 2 months now, or you're giving him to sometime in the spring.
right, so either you do that
We don't
or.
have a plan yet.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, Steve Halderman, I'd like to ask Becky, I mean, we still don't have a plan, correct?
Right, and it's just an upland restoration area, so, I mean, I don't have the specifics in front of me, I didn't bring the file with me, but it is just, you know, it is an upland restoration area, so I think the plan doesn't have to be too comprehensive. It's not a wetland restoration that needs to get done, so I think we do need to get a plan from him. I think that plan can be something that could be submitted fairly quickly, developed and brought in front of you and approved.
Okay.
I thought that the driveway was right adjacent, the old driveway was adjacent to the wetland, like.
It is.
It is,
Yeah.
but it's upland.
Immediately, so what's the, what? Its buffer zone is sitting right, like,
Yeah.
feet away from the wetland, as I recall.
Right, a portion of it is.
And he's got to.
So you're calling him to get a plan, right, Becky?
Yes, if that's what you're directing me to do. We did ask him, we sent a letter, so.
I mean, oh, okay, well.
Mr. Chairman, I think we should have that plan. If it's as easy as Becky says, you should have it by mid-September when we've asked for it. And then if we approve the plan, then give him a couple of months to do the work. This thing's gone on forever.
Becky?
Okay.
By September 15th? Any disagreement from the committee? We need to see a plan. All right, good. What else?
That's all.
That's it?
That's it.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to.
Second?
I second, Steve. It's there.
All in favor? Barnacle?
Adios, amigos.
Everybody.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Have a good week.
Yeah, take
Thank
care. Anybody?